Hello, everyone. This is Josh Rogers with Make It a Yes podcast here at Greater Nashville Title Studios in Brentwood, Tennessee. Today, we have a special guest, real estate agent Hulk Shamsi, and he's been in town and bought a house. He's coming on the scene from law enforcement, and I'm so glad that you're in the office with us today, and I would love to have a great interview. And so, welcome, Hulk.
Thank you, Josh. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, so you and I have been long time friends. I guess at least almost 5 years now. And so
True.
and you've came to town, and and you started off from San Diego, California, and you've came here, transferred with law enforcement, and now you have your real estate license. And so I've known you've done some real estate investing and things like that in town with your own properties, and now you're out there helping clients, achieve the American dream, right?
That is true. I mean, I'm very well blessed for everything I've done. I've met a lot of great people from the time my parents immigrated to United States.
That's right.
And I pretty much grew up in California, so to speak, with zero English language, and things got really improved with all the support that I had from great friends.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. How old were you when you transferred over here, or you immigrated?
I was about 10, 11 years old.
Okay. Okay. So no English at 10, 11, and that must have been a little bit of a challenge, right?
It definitely was a challenge because I couldn't communicate. Culture was different. So started school in 6th grade.
Yeah.
It was very challenging.
I remember you telling me about your uncle and how your uncle would come over and kind of give you the inside scoop of what certain words meant, and how to deal with kids and how to grow up.
Yeah, definitely.
America.
My dad had a great friend,
Okay.
Andy, and when my dad and Andy reconnected, and Andy was basically like an uncle to me.
Right.
I used to call him Uncle Andy all the time.
Okay.
And he was a correctional officer with the Donovan State Prison, working for the state of California.
Okay.
And so before he would go onto his night shift, he would stop by our house and help us out with our homework assignments, tuck us into bed before he'd go to work. So kind of was like a second father, uncle type thing. Very blessed to have him.
Wow, that was amazing. I mean, that's a lot of commitment that he put through to you guys,
Yeah, absolutely. He really cared. He really mentored us
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that we succeed in school, and he would teach us, about how to expect and how to communicate with different type of people. And he would teach us, to communicate with elderly differently versus someone our age.
Right.
So
Okay. Yeah.
very inspiring.
Awesome. Yeah. From yes, sir to hey, dude, right?
Definitely. Yes, absolutely.
Amazing. Okay. So American culture I know is quite unique in some instances, right? And how we give respect to older people and younger people, and in different environments, right? And all the slang words that you had to learn, that I imagine that was a little bit of a
It definitely was. And what makes it really difficult, learning the English language, there's a lot of times, you would write something, has extra letters in it, and those letters tends to be silent, or you don't pronounce them. And I
Right.
remember one particular word, knowledge. I always wondered, why is there a D in there?
Okay. Yeah.
Or why is there a K in front of an N when
Right.
it doesn't get pronounced? So things like that kind of made the language a little bit difficult to learn, but eventually I think we did pretty good with it.
Yeah. Yeah. You're doing great. It's just amazing, because you think about it. If you really think about it, how many languages do you know now?
I speak 2 fluently.
Okay.
Kurdish, I'm very fluent in it,
Okay.
in speaking, writing, reading. Of course, English now.
Okay.
I can definitely get by, get my point across, have short conversations in Spanish,
Oh, really? Okay.
and I can read and write Arabic. I understand some of it, but I'm
Holy
not
cow.
fluent in Arabic. So
Okay.
I'm hoping that someday I become fluent
So
in
that's pretty
Arabic.
much 4 languages. That's pretty strong.
Kind
That's
of
pretty
almost,
strong.
yes. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the Spanish thing, I guess you would need that, especially coming from the law enforcement in San Diego. And then on top of it, Nashville, we still have a lot of Spanish people here.
Absolutely. I feel like I was more fluent in Spanish when I was in San Diego
Right.
because it was a larger Hispanic populations, and you would kind of more like interact with them.
Right.
But since I moved out to Tennessee, I haven't used Spanish that much unless I use it during my law enforcement
Okay.
work, which if I
Sure.
need to
Yeah.
use it, I kind of tend to think about what I gotta say, but I'm able to get my point across.
Yeah. So less practice. You would get a lot more practice in San Diego versus here.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Big
absolutely.
time. Yeah. Awesome. Well, so I'm assuming Andy, your uncle Andy, if we call him that, he kind of got you in the law enforcement kind of thing.
He did. I always wondered, and my dad being a prior military for the
Okay.
for Iraqi military.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
So I know that at some point I had, that itch of serving,
Sure.
and I saw my dad, and then Andy, and then when I was right in college, I came across a San Diego police homicide detective,
Oh wow. Okay.
Jim Stewart. And I asked him that how I wanted to obtain a career in fire service, and he asked me, "You can do better."
Ah. Okay.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" So he used an analogy. He's like, "Okay, let's talk about superheroes.
Right.
You know, um, Superman versus Batman kind of thing."
Sure.
And he's like, "We'll call the fire service or firefighters Superman because they sit around and wait for things to happen."
Right.
Where law enforcement is more like of a Batman type thing. So you go out there, you fight crime, you fight crime. You're basically kind of doing your own hunting instead of somebody asking you, okay, yeah, here's a problem, go fix it.
Sure. Yeah. And to me, in some instances, you're probably preventing crime just being in the area. Yeah. It's pretty amazing what law enforcement, how everyone kind of changes when there's a police officer around. They kind of give reverence, and then also, oh well, I better not speed here. I better, all those different things.
I've noticed that when I first got into law enforcement, I noticed a lot more violation when I was in my personal car
Oh yeah,
versus when I was actually in
right.
my police cruiser.
Sure.
And one day I asked my training officer, I'm like, how come I don't see the type of the violations or, people doing things wrong when I'm at work in our police cruiser versus when I'm driving home? He's like, you're forgetting one thing. I was like, what is that? He's like, you're driving a billboard that says, don't mess up around me.
Right.
He's like, so of
Yeah.
course you're not going to
I'll
see
give you a
people,
ticket or take you to jail.
doing type of the problems
Right.
versus you seeing them when you're driving your personal car.
Awesome. Well, I know that you did really good with your real estate in San Diego that allowed you to bring a lot of money here to Tennessee, and so I know that you had a lot of equity and some cash, those things when you got to town, and then you've done a 1-2 step, and now you're in the bigger house in the Franklin community, right? And so along with your law enforcement, you're always working, you're always doing the law enforcement, and then you're doing the side jobs on top of you know how to do loan officer work. You've been you are a loan officer as well as a real estate agent, but now you're switching your focus towards real estate agent and realty, and so that you can help more people. And I think that with you knowing the Kurdish language and this being one of the number one Kurdish populations in the United States, Nashville, Tennessee, that I think that's brilliant. And I think that you have a lot to offer, and definitely wanted to get you on the show so that you can you know, present yourself to the Kurdish community and of course anyone else that could use you, even some Arabic or Spanish or whatever. But however, you have a lot going for you, and it's just I barely know one language, much less four. I know a very little bit of Spanish, but that's about it. I know a very little bit of Spanish, but that's about it. And so it's really impressive to me, and I think that you could definitely be a service to a lot of people here.
Absolutely. I always enjoy working. I enjoy meeting new people. I mean, if you think about how you and I met,
Yeah.
we met through a few mutual friend, Charles Jeter.
Yep, that's right.
I contacted Charles when I first came to Tennessee to visit back in 2020 and interviewing with the sheriff's office at the time.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I started looking at new construction and everything, and then we came across getting a loan. The previous loan broker that I was working with, he couldn't make the numbers work, and Charles asked me, I know a guy, if he can't do it, nobody can do it.
Yeah.
And that's
awesome.
how he introduced us.
Yeah, Charles is like a brother. I love that guy immensely. So that's amazing. Yeah, and those were really interesting times for all of us, and thank you for giving me the opportunity, and look at how our relationship's grown. Working together. Then now on top of it, now you're an agent as well, and so it's pretty amazing. How was that agent process, becoming a real estate agent? Was it pretty tough? That's a lot of class work too, right? And study.
Not necessarily. I mean, it definitely has some 90-hour course you got to take.
Right,
and
right.
I decided to take it online versus having an actual in-person type class. Sure. Because I was always busy. I was always, picking up extra shifts at the sheriff's office. I was always working late shifts, 12-hour shifts, sometimes extending them to 14 or 16-hour days.
Right.
And I didn't feel like going and sitting in a classroom for several hours just to learn that. So I ended up doing it online, which, it was a very dry reading, and I had to read through the textbook several times to actually understand some of it.
Wow.
But eventually, I was able to complete the course and start, buying textbooks and, studying and everything. And the testing process was very, very easy, actually.
Yeah, because you actually learned it.
And
that's pretty cool.
I just went down there one day and took the test, and, fortunate that I passed the test, and I started interviewing with a lot of brokerage.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of real estate brokerage have either their own in-house lending, or they have a connection or an affiliate with already a lender.
Right.
And so one of the biggest things for me to choose Keller Williams here in Nashville, Franklin area was I wanted to continue doing loans.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And despite that, Keller Williams already have a lender, in-house lending. And I spoke with the broker and during the interview and asked him that, hey, I don't want to give up my license. I want to continue doing this.
Right.
And he asked me, he's like, as long as you properly disclose it, I'm okay with that. You let the clients know that, hey, you're a loan officer yourself, and that's an additional service I can offer. And if they decide to take me up on it, then the broker is okay with it. So that was a big plus for me,
right,
when I decide to sign up and which brokerage I want to go with.
Well, I love the fact that you know both sides now. You know the lending side. You started off with your own real estate, then the lending side. Now you're helping other people with real estate now, and and I love that you know both sides of it. How a lender looks at things, how they how a deal's structured, and how someone can qualify for a loan. It's not always easy, right? It's not always just evident, like, hey, look, you either qualify or you don't. Sometimes it's like, well, let's see. Let's find a way to do it, those kind of things. And I love the fact that you've been in those shoes and you still are in those shoes. And so you understand both sides of it. And so it can make it a lot easier for a client. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, I've always had passion for real estate. I always enjoyed real estate. I mean, I bought my first house in 2011 from a family member.
Right.
And, at the time, I went through a lot of stuff. And during the process of actually obtaining a loan, I made a big mistake because I went on and, purchased a brand new car and financed it.
Oh, yeah.
And that threw off the entire numbers for my loan officer, and my loan officer says, "Hey, man, you screwed up my numbers. I can't do this anymore." So I was like, "How did I screw up your numbers?" He's like, "You just added $500-600 debt to everything. So now that throws off the numbers. I don't know how to fix it."
Yeah.
And I asked him, "Well, what if I just pay off the car? It's not like I didn't had money,
Right.
but I wanted to hold on to my money so I can invest it somewhere else."
Right.
He's like, "Well, if you can pay it off, then we're going to be back to where we were and we shouldn't have any issues." So
Awesome.
I went down to the dealership the next day, wrote him a check. I'm like, "Hey, I want to just pay this car off. I don't want to, I changed my mind. I don't want to do financing anymore."
Right.
So I was able to buy my house from a family member
Okay.
for $170,000. Great house. And frankly, that house was way more than $170,000.
Wow. So you had a good deal
But
in the
I
beginning.
got a steal of a deal on the
Okay,
house.
amazing. And this is in San Diego?
This was in San Diego.
Okay.
And then after 14, 15 years living in that house, I decided to sell that house and kind of sort of get out of the San Diego County bubble area.
Okay.
I wanted somewhere more rural, somewhere more quiet. So we ended up selling that house, and we bought a house over in Murrieta area, which is about an hour outside of city of San Diego.
Okay.
And so we lived there for 3 years until COVID stuff happened and the schools got shut down and everything.
Wow.
And that's when we decided to just bail California and, come back here, put our kids in school versus doing things on Zoom or Google Meets or
Right.
stuff like that.
Wow, what a hard time that was, for the kids. They couldn't go to school, had to learn online, and then if you're not really focused, some kids really thrived on it, but in that environment, and some kids didn't. And so that's pretty, it's interesting that, you're like, hey, look, this is not for us. We need to figure this out.
Absolutely. And it was very difficult for my children
Okay.
because I noticed when they were meeting with their teacher on Zoom or Google Meet, I know they were not paying attention.
Yeah. Okay.
They were playing around with some other stuff or their focus was completely elsewhere while the teacher is trying to lecture and whatnot. And
Too many distractions. Wow.
I figured I'm like, yeah, more power to parents and kids who can do homeschool,
Mm-hmm.
but homeschool is not for my kids. My kids needs to be in the actual classroom setting.
Sure.
And so we moved out here. They started attending school right after spring break because by the time when we moved out here, the school was actually out on a spring break.
Okay.
So they went to school in person during or after spring break of 2021.
Wow. Okay.
And so they were very thrilled, very happy. I've never seen a kid actually being happy to go to school.
Right. Yeah. Once you take it away, you're like, hey, wait. I actually enjoyed that,
Yeah.
versus just staying home and being bored. And so tell me about your family. So I know you're married and I know you have children. And so tell us a little more about that.
So I came from a big family.
Okay.
I have 8 siblings.
8 siblings. Wow.
6 sisters and 2 brothers.
Okay.
Majority of them still lives in California. One of my sister, she moved back to Iraq with her husband.
Okay.
But I have the other 5 sisters in San Diego and my 2 brothers. But my parents are deceased now.
Okay. Yeah.
I lost my dad in December of 2018.
Okay.
And I lost my mom in September of 2023.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So miss them dearly. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I probably wasn't the best kid ever because I know
Well,
I gave them a lot of scare, a lot of grief. I was
you
always
turned
one
out
of those
all
people
right
that
now. Yeah.
I was always one of those people that wanted to explore, that wanted to do more.
Okay.
You know, so I would go out and do things, and you know, parents they always not approve of what their kid does. So
Sure. Yeah. Like, hey, where were you?
definitely,
Yeah. So there was 9 of you total.
it was 9 of us total.
Wow. Amazing. Holy cow. 9.
But
That's
I've been
crazy.
married to my wife for about 17 years now. We
Okay.
got married, actually, it might be a little more than that. We got married in July of 2007.
Okay. Amazing. Yep.
And um, I have 4 kids, 3 girls and 1 boy.
Yeah. So that's like 20 years almost now.
Yeah. My 2 oldest kids, my son is a high school freshman and my daughter is a high school sophomore.
Okay.
I have a 7th grader, and my youngest, she's a 2nd grader.
Okay.
So
Awesome. So you got a child in elementary, middle school, and high school.
correct.
And is this all in the Williamson County area?
It is.
Okay.
Before we moved out to Tennessee, my wife's aunt, who lives in Antioch area,
Okay.
and I spoke with her cousins, and I was like, "Okay, guys, I need your input. Where is the best place to be? You know,
Yeah.
in
Yeah. Especially
Tennessee.
for schools, right?
You know, because ultimately we were moving out here for schools."
Right. Okay.
And my wife's cousin is like, "If you're gonna move out to Tennessee, try to figure out how to live in Williamson County."
Okay. Amazing.
And
That's
he's
great
like,
advice.
"Williamson
Yeah.
County is not cheap, but if anybody can make it work, you can."
Right. Okay.
And so I really started doing my research in Williamson County and Williamson County schools. So initially, when we moved out here, my kids went to Franklin Special School District.
Okay.
Then, when we bought the house on the other side of Franklin, well,
Okay.
we're now considered outside of the city of Franklin jurisdiction.
Okay.
And so we had to transfer the kids to the county school districts versus
Okay.
Franklin
Awesome.
Special.
Awesome. Yeah. That's amazing. You know, coming from California, and that was great advice because you know a lot of people use private schools here as well. The private school industry is bigger here now than in some other cities because of the county schools. And, Williamson County has been one of the best or the best in the state for I would imagine, a long time. And so that was very intuitive. And I'm glad that you asked those questions, because it definitely helps out. And, with your kids, where they're learning top notch skills and getting it, being in a good community, right?
Honestly, that is true because I compared the Williamson County schools as in a public school sector
Mm-hmm.
and compared them to private schools in California.
Okay.
They were equal, if not better.
Really?
So when we came out here, my kids are in public schools, and Williamson County public schools are very equivalent, almost like the same
Okay.
to the private school here in Tennessee. Now, there's difference in different private schools, but
Sure.
for most part, I think the benefit to a private school is probably more one-on-one time with the teacher.
Okay.
And my son, who is on the autism spectrum disorder,
Okay.
he's a smart kid. If anything he knows about technology, he'll figure things out. So sometimes I call him Elon Musk Jr.
Yeah.
because
Right.
he's got to do something when it comes to technology.
Right. Nice.
Um,
You're like, hey, help me work my phone here.
oh, I got a fantastic story on that one. So one day my wife, she gives me her phone. She's like, hey, how do you turn off this voiceover kind of thing?
Okay.
So I'm playing around with it and everything, and I can't figure it out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, I'm trying to get into the setting to shut it off or turn it off. But every time I'm trying to get into the setting, that voiceover is coming on, and I'm like lost in the water here.
Right.
So I tell my son, I don't know what he did to it. He gets into the setting, shuts it off. I was like, well, how did you do that? Because I spent 45 minutes on figuring that out.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't figure it out. And he looks at me and he says, that's an ID 10T issue.
Okay.
I'm like, so now mind you, I had to really think about ID 10T.
Oh, really? I just thought it
So,
was some code. Okay.
and I'm like, okay. And I was like, did you just call me an idiot? He's like, no.
Oh.
It's like,
Wow.
you know, but that he's that smart of a kid when it comes to technology.
Amazing.
But, you know, I'm very blessed with everybody around me,
Nice.
friends, mentors,
Mm-hmm.
colleagues at work. You know, I've learned a lot. And when you have a passion for something, you
Right.
know, you tend to dive deeper into it. You want to do more. And that's how I was from the time I got out of college. I had passion to serve, so I started doing 3 years of volunteer firefighting.
Okay.
I had one hell of a time, you
Yeah.
know.
Did you like it?
I enjoyed it. I was single,
Okay.
so I didn't care if I would go away for a long period of time,
Okay.
as long as I would tell my parents or my siblings where I was at,
Right.
and I was okay with it. So I
Nice.
ended up working the California wildfires, the 2003 Cedar Fire,
Holy cow.
and then I ended up working the 2007 fires,
Okay.
which I was in the area of the Harris Fire, which eventually those fires end up merging with other ones and became a big mess, you know. And we were on the fire line for about 14 days at a time,
Holy cow. Okay.
with little to no sleep.
Wow.
So I got stories about that, but we'll just leave those for a different
Yeah,
day.
that definitely. I
Um,
definitely. I didn't even know that. That's pretty cool. I didn't even think about. I didn't know that. That's definitely fun stuff to, not fun, but just be interesting to learn your perspective on that. You know, and coming from that environment. You
Definitely was something I really enjoyed, you know. So
Sure.
I end up taking classes about fire service
Okay.
when I was in college. So, and then some of those classes you had to pay extra fee to get a certification from the California State Fire Marshal's office.
Okay.
So I end up doing that. And so right now I hold certifications in fire management, fire investigation, fire prevention, fire command,
Okay.
you know. So I got those certifications that I like to have. And it was one of those classes I enjoyed. And
Nice.
we did some practical stuff on that, which was really cool.
Okay.
You know, you kind of see firsthand what firefighters do, what their training really looks like. So before doing all that, I probably would have agreed with Jim Stewart, my homicide detective mentor,
Yeah.
that firefighters are basically just sitting around and doing nothing.
Yeah. Until
But
you actually did it.
when I actually did it, it was a complete different thing, because while they may have some downtime
Mm-hmm.
and they might be at the station, but that is not really a downtime, because that's the downtime that they practice with the tools that they carry on the
Right.
fire apparatus. They get more familiar with using those tools, how to use those tools, maintain those tools. Some of them study, they go back to their, you know, training,
Okay.
the fire service sector, you know, policies, or, you know, firefighters probably can understand the 10s and 18s when it comes to wildland fires.
Okay.
There's 10s, I think, right, at least back then, there were like 18 different ways that something happened that caused a firefighter their life.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And there were 10 different ways at the time, and something happened that somebody got seriously injured or hurt
Sure.
or killed. So they study all those on how to prevent that, much like how law enforcement constantly train on
Okay.
their tactics, you know, do different scenarios, whether it involves use of force,
Right.
de-escalations, you know, etc. they're constantly training, to be better for
Right.
when some kind of a incident arises that, okay, you know what, I'm prepared to handle this type of incident. So I've seen that firsthand. And so while the firefighters have a lot of downtime in general public's eyes, they use that downtime pretty wisely.
Right. Right.
And
Amazing.
I,
Yeah.
I say that because I worked with those guys and I've done it.
Yeah, there's some things you don't want to learn on the job. Some things that you need to learn on the job, but some things you want to be prepared when you're going into it. I would imagine, because it could cost you your life, I would imagine.
Definitely. And, it's a lot of things that when you constantly train on it, it kind of becomes a second nature. And with that, okay, you know what? Yeah, I've done this, during the practice or controlled environment. I've never done it under stress or,
Oh,
when somebody's watching, expecting me to be perfect in this. You kind of take a quick breather and you're like, okay, I got to remember all the training I've done.
right.
So you revert back to your training as you're doing it, except this time when you make a mistake, there are no do-overs.
Right, right. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and that makes it a
it's
little
real
bit
life.
more challenging because during the practice or controlled environment, when you mess up, you can redo it,
Right, right. Yeah.
but not when
Not
you're
in the
actually
real world.
working an incident.
Right. Yeah. Not in the real
So it's
world.
very critical. Training is very critical. And I'm blessed with doing the fire service. I spent nearly 14 years on the back of the ambulance working as an
Okay.
EMT with those firefighters,
Holy cow. Okay.
and then I eventually switched over to law enforcement, because I just wanted to do more. I wanted to see what
See what
the
that
other
was
side
like.
looks
Yeah,
like.
right.
You
so
know?
so firefighter to law enforcement, now from loan officer to real estate agent.
Yeah, I mean, I
That's good.
always like to keep my options open. One of my good friend who's like a brother to me from another mother,
Sure.
who was also a San Diego police officer.
Mm-hmm.
I met him in 2011, and we're a very good friend. Like I said, more like brothers.
Yeah.
And my, blessing, everything, my pledge to Fred Strader. I call him Asex Strader.
Okay.
If you remember the TV show Breaking Bad,
Yeah. Okay.
Hank Schrader.
Oh
So
yeah.
because
Okay.
of his
Yeah.
last
Okay.
name, I call him Asex Schrader. So really a good friend of mine, but he's been a good supportive. Like there's things that I want to talk about. I can't talk to my wife about it because I know she'll worry.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I'll usually shoot Fred a text message, and I was like, "Hey, you free?"
Mm-hmm.
And the minute I say you're free, he knows I got something I want to get off my chest.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So we'll get on the phone, and he's like, "Talk to me," and I'll just rant and keep on going and going and going. And then at some point, I'll stop. I'm like, "Hey, you still with me?" He's like, "I'm listening. Keep going." So really great support to have a guy like that,
Nice.
and my hat off to that person. But what he said to me most recently, to answer your question properly, he said, "You're a climber,"
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, while you're doing what you're doing and you enjoy what you're doing,
Yeah.
you're constantly looking for something else. What else can I do to make things different?
Right. Right.
Because here, if this becomes not what I want to do anymore or less interesting, I already have something else lined up.
Yeah. You already have options. That's great. Yeah.
And I love to keep those options open, especially when I have a passion about something.
Sure.
So, in real estate being one of them, I really do have a strong passion with real estate.
Right.
I like to do things with my hands,
Mm-hmm.
Not always the perfect one with it, but I try.
Right. Okay. Well, nice. So, what do you think about the market nowadays? As is it? You feel like it? Because I feel like it's a little slower. Things are changing. Or people are, right now we're in the middle of the government shutdown. You know, that's affecting things a little bit. We don't know. I think just last night that the vote was to end it, but it hasn't been ended yet totally. But I think the good thing is that we're a little bit insulated here in this state. We're one of the attractive states right now, for state taxes and things like that. You don't have state taxes, and it's beneficial. And then property taxes. I mean, talk about the differences from San Diego to here as far as affordability.
Oh yeah.
Wow, yeah. What's that look like?
Uh, Completely like a day and night type thing.
Right. Okay.
Because when I was in California, I was paying $9,700 on my annual taxes
Well, on a property.
on a property.
Right.
And
Holy
then I
cow.
came out here
9,700.
initially with my townhome that we lived in it for 3 years. My taxes went from $9,700 annually to $1,800.
Wow. Holy
Sure.
cow. Huge
The
difference.
salary changed.
Right.
I was making nearly $40 an hour there
Okay.
with San Diego Police Department. When I came here and joined Williamson County Sheriff's Office, I was making $20 an hour.
Okay.
So I took a 50% cut in
Holy
pay,
cow. Wow.
but I also took more than 80% cut on my expenses.
Right.
So it was somewhat of a win-win situation for me.
Yeah, because you had state taxes on top of it. You got high property taxes, state taxes. I was talking to someone yesterday from California, an attorney, and he says there's so many things that the gas prices, toll roads, all these things that just keep adding up, right? That they keep adding on to you.
Definitely. I mean, California has always been one of the most expensive state
Right. Okay.
because of its weather mainly.
Oh, yeah.
It has a great weather, and honestly, if you want, desert, then you're just a matter of hours.
Sure.
If you want mountains or hiking, that kind of stuff, you're a matter of hours. If you're a beach bunny, you're a matter of hours. So
yeah, on the coast, right?
having like that, I remember usually right around this time of the year, we would go by and check out and grab all the pumpkins and stuff like that from mostly grocery stores or local farmers, if any, or neighbors, who wanted to get rid of their pumpkins or whatever. And we would drive to the deserts and shoot.
Oh, really?
So
Practice.
we'd shoot pumpkins as targets, and
Sure.
we would think about shooting a pumpkin with a shotgun.
Yeah, it'd be fun, right?
It was a fun thing to do. But same thing. But it's always been an
explode,
expensive
yeah.
state. However, I do believe if the local government or the state government makes some changes, it probably would drive more people into the state.
Right.
Versus right now, a lot of people are leaving the state because of the high cost of living.
Right. Yeah, the cost of living is just expensive. Yeah.
But back there, there was you had to pay Melrose. I don't know if Tennessee even have a Melrose, but usually newer developed communities would have Melrose, which was
I
an
don't even know what that
extra
is. Yeah.
cost that you as residents for that area would incur, to pay
Okay.
for all that construction that was done. And they don't have that in Tennessee, so that's a plus.
Really? Yeah. So you have the federal income tax. That's the same, right? So, but you have the property taxes. Property taxes, insurance has gone up lately, and so that has changed affordability. Those two things, on top of interest rates, on top of prices, those two things have gone up, even in Tennessee. But I just imagine that, in California, the affordability just keeps getting tighter with all the extra taxes, and things that we don't have here. If you can recall any more of those type items that you're going to save on when you come to Tennessee, if you can give a couple of examples.
I mean, definitely. I mean, property taxes is a big one, I think.
Right. Yeah, huge.
Not having extra expenses like Melrose for newly developed community as a plus. Sales taxes a little bit lower.
Okay.
Gas taxes or even vehicle registration.
Oh yeah.
When I registered my cars in California, I had to pay nearly $400 to $500 per car.
Wow.
And here it's like, between 50 to $100.
Right.
So it's great. If you are moving to Tennessee, the Tennessee real estate market is always booming because of all this other stuff that people enjoy.
Right. Right.
But if you're going to come to Tennessee, make sure that you adapt to how locals like to live.
Okay.
And I was told this, and I say this the same thing. If somebody's coming out of state, whatever you're running away from, whatever you're leaving from, leave that stuff there.
That's great.
Because believe me,
a lot of people say
you
that.
You don't like that stuff. You don't want to bring that stuff here because it's just gonna be taking one step forward and two step backward type thing.
Right.
But market is always going to change. So what I usually like to tell my client when somebody says, well, what do you think how the market is doing?
Right.
Well, what do you want the market to do? What's your intention for the market? Are you buying? If you're buying, then we're going to look at how the market is doing as far as somebody's buying a real estate.
Right.
Are you selling a real estate? Is that a seller market or is that a buyer's market? If you're wanting to buy but you're unsure about the interest rates, then it's a perfect time for you to reach out to your local loan officer and ask questions.
I love what you just said too. With the intention, right? Because if you're intending to, there's several different reasons why you would buy a home. Whether, of course, that's going to be your primary residence or it's going to be investment property, whatever those intentions are. But, the thing is, the huge difference is even if it's minute, even if it's the smallest amount of equity, you're getting some equity if you're a homeowner versus a renter, right? And, those little bitty things will help you build wealth, especially in the long run. I mean, I don't think we're going to, see the 20% appreciation for a while per year. I mean, like some houses went up, holy cow, 40% in 2 years, right? Because of COVID, during the COVID time.
Absolutely. So in 2008, real estate market crashed bad.
Right, crashed, yes.
And majority of that was because, a lot of bad loans were done.
Sure.
Back then, it was more like stated type income. I would come to you and say, hey, Josh, I make $100,000 a year.
Right.
And so you would do a loan for me based on me telling you that I'm making $100,000 a year, when in fact I was making $40,000.
Right.
So here you did a loan for me, but I can't afford it. I can't repay it.
Right.
So that was the biggest thing that caused the market to crash.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
However, feds came in and they made changes, and they bailed out a lot of those bad loans and whatnot. So now we have to have actual documentation for pretty much every loan. However, there are some options available for the self-employed individuals who want to buy a loan, like doing a bank statement loans, or an investor where we do a one-time closed construction loan.
Yep, and or the DSCR loans.
DSCR loans. So there are options out there. And one of the phrases that I like to use when people ask me, well, how do you think the rates are? What are the rates as of today?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them, I'm like, this is what I'm going to say. You're probably not going to like it, but date the rate, marry the house.
Right. Right.
And sometimes people, they're like, well, what do you mean by date the rate, marry the house?
Yeah.
Well, let's say you're out there, you're looking, you want to buy, you find a perfect house that's good for you and your family, but you don't want to make an offer on the house because you're too worried about the rates. Well, by the time you decide, okay, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with it, that house is no longer available.
Right.
It's gone. Somebody else purchased it. So here you lost on a perfect house you thought for your family because you were too occupied with the rates.
Right.
Rates can always change. So I tell clients, buy the property that fits your family's need,
Right. Number one.
what you want out of the house, what type of memories you're looking to build or have in that house.
Right.
And then we can go ahead and change the rates later on because you can always refinance,
Right.
you know, to change the rates to a lower rate when rates do changes. And right now, I mean, we have a great opportunity for refinancing. I think what the company is offering 160 basis points to help
Well,
with lenders type credit that
well,
we're offering.
it's a huge difference, you know. But use as the real estate agent, you know, it's a fate. That's a great point. You know, that's a great point as far as communicating to someone, hey, look, we've been in a steady, or not, you know, totally steady, but it's real estate hasn't gone backwards since the crash.
Correct.
Okay. The crash, there were several things that happened, right? We had a bad economy, you know, tons of layoffs, the automotive industry was in the tank. All these kind of things happened on top of those no income, no asset loans. Just based on a credit score, you could get a loan, you know, and that was definitely a recipe for disaster, right? And so, and so the people, it costs the market dearly because of, you know, hey, look, there was no end in sight, everything's appreciating, you know, and so there was all this deregulation on finances, money, and so that helped, you know, fuel the fire of inflated values and things like that, you know. And so I think that
You're right on the money on that, Josh, because, you know, back in 2020 or 2021, you know, the interest rates were down in the low 2%, 3%.
threes, right? Yeah.
It'll never go that low.
Yeah.
At least not
Well,
for any.
That was a pandemic. You know,
not any for any most, you know, short future.
Right.
We're just not going to see that happening. So if any client, if any consumer wanting to purchase a home, my advice to them is don't wait until the rates drop down to 4% or 3%. You know, there's loans out there where you can get those type of loans, but the rates are not going to go that low,
right?
At least not for any.
Well, you bring up the good point is that if you do have those low rates, you know, that's going to do the same thing it did to the prices as
the bidding war.
Yeah, the bidding wars.
We have bidding wars.
People overpaying for real estate, and then the appreciation going through the roof, and so you'd rather get a better deal on the house and a decent rate rather than wait for a hypothetical in the future, you know, because your family's going to suffer. The thing is I think it's kind of like, you know, the stock market or whatever. The sooner you invest, the better.
Absolutely. And you look at it is because that's why I love to use date the rate, marry the house phrase. You know, find the house you like, and then you'll be qualifying for a good rate. And then you can always change the rate down on the road. Yeah. I was talking to this this client, and they said that, they eventually want to sell. And I asked them if, you know, they're open for a quick meeting where I can show them why I'm different, you know, than most agents. And one of the most interesting things he said to me, he's like, why should I hire you?
Right.
And I asked him,
That's a good question.
let me ask you this. What are you looking for in a real estate agent? What are your criteria that you want from a real estate agent?
Mm-hmm.
Because I can tell you what I can bring to the table, what I can do for you, what I can guarantee, but I can't speak on behalf of other agents. So that's where I'd like to, tell every consumer, when you're looking to hire an agent, what are you looking for in an agent? Are you looking for somebody who can do a quick sale? Are you looking for somebody who can get you the top dollar for your property? What are you looking for in an agent? And it's very critical for you to interview more than one agent, um, and see who
Yeah.
can is a better fit to your interests.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of it's chemistry, but also the knowledge and, how they're going to market if you're going to be listing your property, all those kind of questions. And I think you're right. What's most important to you as a client? What do you really want? What are you looking for? And that's different for everybody.
Yes,
That's different for everybody.
absolutely.
So, thank you so much for being here today. I know that your time's limited. So if people want to find you, how do they find you?
Well, you can always reach me on my cell phone number. You can call the Keller William Franklin Nashville Franklin office.
Okay.
The phone number is
What's your cell number?
my cell number is 615-955-2550. You can call me, text me at any time. I'm always open. I'm always working.
Nice.
And you can also reach me on my email address, which is going to be my first initial,
Okay.
Shamsi. That's CHAM as in Mary, S as in Sam, AYID as in David, I at KW.com. KW being for Keller William.
Okay.
You can reach me that way as well.
All right.
Or
awesome.
you can find me on Facebook,
Okay.
which is right now it's under Code 3, Real Estate and Mortgage. Eventually, we'll be changing the name to Hawks Real Estate and Mortgage
Okay.
Team. You can find me there, and we're slowly but surely expanding our social media footprint.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. And this is a good way to start. It's a good way to get you some more social media presence, and I'm so grateful that you're here on the podcast with us, and so that people can learn more about you and you can add to the podcast, and we can and offer you some form of content, give you some multiple things of content back to you for being on the podcast. Now, before we leave, so let's do a Kurdish, of how they contact you, and that you do real estate and mortgages. Yeah.
Ye-
So if you can tell people in Kurdish.
Yeah, of course. گلی خوشکو برایان عزیز هر تشتکی هین پداخواست بکن که بو کرین و فرودنا خانیا آنجی هکتا لونک ببیتن بو کرین و خانیا تو چه تلفن منا موبایله بکی رقم 619 چارک 55808 آنجیک رقم 615 نه 552550 آنجی ایمیل بو مفرکی ایمیل من جیک hshamsaidi at kw.com.
Okay. Awesome. Do just a real estate one, just only real estate. Kurdish.
Yes, we just did that.
Okay. And was that the loan too? Or do you want to do one for loans now?
Well, as far as just
say, hey, look, if you want a Kurdish loan officer,
I mentioned that.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right. So you did both, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Let's think what else we could do here. Okay. What we'll do is just wrap up.
Okay.
Yeah, Hulk, and thank you so much for being on the show, and it's been a pleasure. You know, we've been friends a long time, and I'm super grateful. And you know, I know you're a vital part of the community, from law enforcement to real estate to loans. It's really cool to have someone so diverse on the show, and so that's awesome. And you know, I hope that more people find you, and so they can take advantage of your services and your knowledge base. You know,
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me here, Josh. It's always a pleasure to, be around you. I learn a lot from you from the time that we've
thank you.
worked together. You're a good source, a good mentor. There's a lot of things that I come across, and it's kind of like going back to the encyclopedia, which here, in this case, would be you. Coming
Well,
back,
that's
okay,
very kind of you. Thank you.
letting you know, okay, well, this is what I'm thinking. What's your input on this? So I appreciate you having me here today, and always available for any client that wants to buy, sell, or refinance. You do not hesitate to reach out. We're always available.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.